Tony Robbins' insane double life that nobody knows about.
We actually had no idea that the #1 motivational speaker in the world was actually involved in this kind of stuff until he told this story to business mogul Alex Hormozi in a recent podcast.
You know, a friend of mine's daughter was kidnapped and put into slavery, just insanity. It happens in America, it happens overseas, and nobody wants to talk about trafficking. But that got me associated to it. We actually helped somebody. And so I went out undercover. I had markings all over my face. They had a makeup person. They had scars on my face. I helped them negotiate these deals with these animals that do this.
So it sounds like he was posing as like a buyer or maybe even a trafficker if they're buying victims from each other maybe.
That's crazy because we just were a part of we got to see some of the behind the scenes of a sting operation locally where we are. And it's crazy. We just observed what was happening. Yeah. It's crazy that they let Tony Robbins
be one of the people
on the operation. Yeah.
And so he actually worked with an organization called Operation Underground Railroad. This was actually the organization behind the movie Sound of Freedom. And so the rescues he's talking about were with that organization. And they primarily do a lot of work overseas, like the movie kind of talked about. But yeah, he continues because this is pretty wild.
The ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life, but also the most beautiful. But again, I didn't just give money. I didn't just write something. I just didn't put something. I went in the trenches. Yeah. And
So for context, both of these people are worth ridiculous amounts of money. Tony Robbins is worth billions. He started off as a motivational speaker. Alex Hormozi is worth hundreds of millions. He started from literally nothing and built his whole entire career. And so they're talking about giving back. And Tony's like, hey, it's not just money I gave. Actually went into the trenches and saw this thing up close. It got up close and personal.
Yeah.
Sitting there watching these girls go through the worst thing on earth, meaning they're chained to a bed to do 8 or 10 tricks a day, and then we get them freed. Yeah. We brought them to this house. They'd never been out there. They're out on the ocean. They're down here playing basketball. They're the change in their lives. And so then I'm hooked. So my wife and I have now funded 72,000. Started with 30,000. I grew up in a town of 30,000 people. I want to free that many children, as big as the city I grew up in. Wow. Now we're at 72,000. I'm going tonight. We'll probably raise $5 million tonight. I'll do matching funds for everybody at the event.
Dang, good for him for not only just being invested all the way around.
Yes,
it's obviously he has businesses. He's investing financially. He's investing his time. He's investing his brand, doing matching gifts, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Kudos to him for being this involved.
Well, and it's that kind of involvement that the anti-trafficking movement, truly needs. Not everyone can do anti-trafficking work for their full-time job. And even Tony doesn't do that, right? He's able, because of the advantages that he has in his life, he's able to do those kinds of things. Not everyone can. And so being able to support the organizations that are doing the work is really, really important. And he's talking about a lot of what happens overseas, but we know that stuff like this, like he mentioned, happens in the States too. We've been educating on sex trafficking for the last 15 years. And we know that at least in the States, it's not as much of the being chained up and locked up and being forced to do things you don't want to do. More so what's happening in the States is psychological warfare. These traffickers are pretending to be someone they're not to gain a young person's love, trust, and loyalty, and then using that against them. So it's more the psychological warfare, that grooming process. Even in Sound of Freedom, we saw that in the Sound of Freedom movie.
Yeah, that's what the recruitment method that we would label that as, posing as a professional like that. Because the lady in that was the trafficker, was posing as a modeling agent to get those kids into a situation.
And then it escalated to the kids being taken, but it didn't start there.
Right.
But Tony Robbins isn't the only one funding the fight to stop sex trafficking. Actually, last year we got to connect with a project that Tim Tebow is working on, and what they are doing is wild. It says, with Tim Tebow as a general partner, Fort Worth firm launches $50 million fund to invest in tech solutions to human trafficking.
Dang, y'all, they ain't playing around.
No, they're not. They are serious. And so we actually got to go to a couple events where Tim Tebow and Tommy Martin, who works with him, as well as Wes, they were all there. And it was kind of a cool event because they were able to kind of choose the businesses that they were going to invest in, these businesses, the whole purpose of them is to fight human trafficking. And it's kind of like a Shark Tank situation where the businesses did their pitch, and then these guys were able to decide who they were going to invest in. And so this says that the fund is going to target $50 million, building on the success of their first fund, which was $18 million. They've already invested in 20 high growth companies delivering measurable impact across healthcare, law enforcement, technology, and frontline responses. The Tebow Group is partnering partnering with Eagle Freedom Fund to accelerate industry efforts to protect the most vulnerable, the firm said. And they've already done amazing work, guys. And this has just been cool to like be like a fly in the wall in those rooms and see everything and hear everything that they're doing. They've trained 6,000 doctors and nurses to identify trafficking victims already. They've been able to protect more than 50,000 children from online exploitation. That is massive. Assist in the escape of 149 trafficking victims and contribute to the arrest of 39 traffickers. Guys,
that's what's up.
So cool. And the energy in the room, like at these events with these guys, is absolutely insane. And so we want to actually go back and look at Alex's and Tony's conversation, look at the context in which that conversation started, because it actually ties all of this together and applies to all of us, anyone, no matter who we are, what we struggle with. But first, we actually want to take a look really quickly at the organizations or the businesses that Eagle Venture Fund is actually investing into. Because guys, some of these are so freaking cool. Coming Home is amazing. This is actually AI guidance and wellness tools for survivors of trauma and trafficking, connecting them with resources, which is really neat.
It was started by a survivor as well too, which is cool to have that perspective informed into it.
Absolutely. Dark Watch, they're doing real-time threat intelligence protection against organized crime. Deja Vu AI, it is AI-powered image and pattern recognition to identify victims, traffickers, and locations that trafficking is happening in, which is super neat. We've got to meet some of the people working on that. Freedom is one that I'm really excited about. I am actually super passionate about having like a clean supply chain, so that slavery is not in like the things that like we buy, like it's slaves aren't making them. And so Freedom is one of the businesses that is looking into all of that. We have Hotel Shield. David, who runs this, is really great. There's a lot of trafficking that happens in like the hospitality industry. And so they're having a business to help these hotels make sure that that's not happening in their hotels and places of work. Samaritan's really cool. This is actually helping drive homelessness now. And we got to briefly connect with the guy that runs that. Techless has like a new, it's called Wise Phone. This is to help fight exploitation that's happening through the technology. So there's like a lot more in here, but it's just really neat to see a for-profit perspective on fighting human trafficking. And then to hear what Tony's doing too, right? It takes all of us to come together.
It does. Sometimes businesses kind of get flack for like not helping humanity or just wanting to be greedy, make money. And so it really is awesome to see people like Tony, people like Tim Tebow, like everyone at the Eagle Venture Fund really leverage their skills as business people to serve humanity in a really profound way, honestly.
For real. And make impacts that the nonprofit space is not even capable of making, guys. It's so neat. So let's go back to actually Alex and Tony's conversation, because it reveals a truth that applies to all of us, no matter our age or how much money we have or don't have, like many of us. And so for context here, Alex just talked about getting into the fitness industry when he was in his early 20s, because that was really the only thing he felt like he was into. But then he talks about how it backfired.
Yes. When I was 20, I got obsessed with positive psychology. I had a trunk of books, and every single one of them was self-help, things like this, early on, before I had a business, any of that stuff.
Which is kind of Tony's lane, is like a lot of that positive psychology piece.
And I got to a point where I realized I had read all the books and my life hadn't changed. And it felt very hopeless for me because my subjective well-being was the same. And so I came up with a mantra for myself, which you might laugh at, which was happiness.
All right. So this is really interesting because everyone tells us to do what we're passionate about. And if you do what you're passionate about, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Well, Alex did, and it still wasn't enough as far as fulfillment went. He was chasing after this sense of fulfillment and happiness, and he was reading all the books and doing all the things and doing what he was passionate about. And yet it still wasn't enough for him. And he actually went on to build another company that's worth tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. And now he's on his way to becoming a billionaire before the age of 40, which is insane. And it's crazy he has that much success and he's asking Tony for meaning and fulfillment.
It is. And so check this, because Tony responded by talking about feeding millions of starving people around the world and fighting sex trafficking, and then kind of put Alex in his place. And honestly, maybe all of us too, because it absolutely applies to us. Let's check it out.
So what I'm trying to say to you is, get off your ass. And I love you and I respect you, Alex. I'm not coming from that place. I hope you know where I'm coming from. You've accomplished more than most people dream in their lifetime, and I respect you.
Yeah.
So he's saying that not because Alex is lazy, but because he's trying to motivate him into something bigger. And later in the conversation, a couple minutes later, he kind of expounds.
Too big a heart. I know you do. I know everybody knows you well. I've seen you with your wife. You're an extraordinary human being. You're not just the guy here who does all these wonderful things, and they do wonderful things for people. You're absolutely right. But you're not connected to it, and you don't have something that you're obsessed about that makes you feel fully alive. You're doing it because you need to.
Wow. That's really powerful. Guys, we live in a more connected world than ever before. We've got these crazy cool tech advancements. Life is, in that sense, easier than it's ever been in the history of the world because of like the luxury and conveniences we have. And yet we still have the loneliest generation alive. We have self-deletion. We have addiction. We have depression. We have mental illness. Like Alex talks about in his story, like he had all of these things, like on paper, he had all the success, and yet he still didn't want to wake up in the morning. He would just wish that he would like die in his sleep. And so Tony here is not talking about like living for happiness. He's talking about finding purpose. And the way he said this about being fully alive, it actually reminded me of a favorite quote. It says, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I think that's like really cool. I feel like that was just like exactly what Tony was trying to tell Alex there.
No, and that's what we see. Like that's what Tebow's doing. That's what Tony's doing. And they're literally saving millions of people from human trafficking every single year. And so this is a big part of what motivates us to do what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's not like pursuing happiness for the sake of happiness, right? It's purpose behind it. And so for me, what makes me feel and come alive is seeking justice. Like, and that happened from a really young age. Like I started Red Light Rebellion like in high school, and I didn't think that like sex trafficking would be the topic. But like it didn't necessarily have to be sex trafficking. It's more seeking that justice that makes me feel alive, which was like then the tie-in to trafficking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for me, it was really, I loved music and live events and being able to connect with people and just have a genuinely fun time. And it's crazy that all of those things have come together within Red Light Rebellion to fight sex trafficking and to leverage those things in our programs with students and schools and the thousands of students that we've gotten to interact with and have a fun time with, but also bring a significant impact, especially around mental health and resiliency and just going through tough times that we all do. Like it doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter where you come from. Like as humans, we all are connected in some of those things.
Yeah, we're all looking for purpose and meaning in our life. So it doesn't have to be a direct cause. Like Eagle Venture Fund, they are starting businesses. Like they're investing into new AI that's doing like crazy cool stuff. Like I sit there and it just like blows my mind. I don't understand half of it because it's all tech stuff, but it's really cool. They're creating new phones, but it has a purpose that's beyond profit. And so just like we believe you have purpose beyond happiness for happiness sake, that's only going to lead to meaninglessness and depression, which I think is what we see in a lot of multiple generations, adults and kids, honestly, in the world today.
Totally. And that's why we see in the algorithms and the ads and the new trends only lead, like you were saying, to more depression and more loneliness. And we have an epidemic of loneliness, like not just in Gen Z and young people, but like across the spectrum in every age group.
I know like middle-aged men are some of like the highest for like self-deletion, right? So this is impacting everyone. And so if you want to take your first step towards not just feeling good, but having a purpose, go to our action tab on our website, redlightrebellion.org. And these are just like really simple first steps that you can take if you want to explore engaging in anti-trafficking and seeing if this is something that makes you come alive or how the things that make you come alive can impact this movement. So we've got some cool stuff. We've got a social media toolkit that you can actually download. So it's got a red flag card, it's got some educational pieces, and you can actually spread awareness. We actually heard from a survivor who realized she was a survivor of trafficking because her friend had posted an article about trafficking online. So you just don't know what that kind of stuff is going to do. You can sign the Rebel Pledge and commit to being the kind of person that's going to fight against sex trafficking. We also have like a little red flags quiz, and you can just kind of test like, hey, where am I at my starting point in understanding this cause? Or if you really want to even commit, maybe you don't have the kind of funding that Tony has. We are a nonprofit. And so if you want to even commit as a Freedom Fund coming in monthly, and you can actually sponsor kids getting in-depth awareness every single month. Guys, any type of action in awareness and making sure that those that we love know about the dangers of sex trafficking and human trafficking and exploitation, that makes a huge difference. You literally don't know the lives that could be impacted or even potentially saved if we don't take this kind of action.